Welcome back. This lesson is about protective trusts, the trusts you use when the goal isn't give money, but give help safely. We are moving from the general mechanics of planning to the specific real-life needs of people who require an extra layer of protection. We are looking at special needs trusts and spendthrift clauses. Special needs, sometimes called supplemental needs, trusts, which are designed to support a disabled loved one without destroying eligibility for certain government benefits, and spendthrift-style protections, which are designed to protect an inheritance from creditors, divorce pressure, or the beneficiary's own worst impulses. Imagine you have a loved one who depends on a safety harness to navigate their daily life. Perhaps it is the medical care provided by the government or a structured budget that keeps them stable. If you were to drop a large, sudden inheritance directly into their hands, what you wanted to be a gift could end up being like cutting their safety harness. Today, we're going to learn how to provide for them in a way that strengthens their security rather than putting it at risk. Let's start with a situation that affects millions of families: caring for a loved one with a disability. Many individuals with special needs rely on government programs like Supplemental Security Income or Medicaid. These programs are means-tested, which is just a technical way of saying they have very strict limits on how much money a person can own. In many cases, if a person receives an inheritance in the low thousands, they could be disqualified from their health coverage and monthly support, even if the inheritance isn't enough to continue providing them the required support. This is where a special needs trust, or an S&T, becomes essential. A well-designed special needs trust is meant to prevent such a circumstance from happening by making sure the assets are not treated as the beneficiary's assets, while still improving their quality of life. Some special needs trusts are funded with the beneficiary's own money, and the rules can look different. The key phrase here is supplemental, meaning a beneficiary can't require the trust to provide necessities. Instead, the trust provides financial assistance that adds to, but does not replace, services provided by other programs. The trust allows a trustee you choose to hold assets for the benefit of your loved one, without those assets counting against them for government benefits. The law's view is that the money belongs to the trust, not the individual. The trustee could then use that money to pay for quality of life items that the government doesn't provide. This could include things like a private room in a care facility, specialized dental work, electronic equipment, or even travel to visit family members. By using a special needs trust, you are ensuring that your gift supplements the safety net, rather than replacing it. And here's a practical detail that matters. Distributions are commonly structured, so payments are made directly to providers rather than handing cash to the beneficiary. Now, a key warning. Special needs planning is complex because it interacts with a complicated benefit system. A poorly drafted trust can do more harm than good. So the goal of this lesson is not to teach you how to draft one. It's to teach you the concept so you understand why it's different from an ordinary inheritance, and if it is a tool you'd like to consider including in your plan. Now, there are variations on this tool you might have heard about. One is a pooled trust, sometimes called a community trust, often managed by a nonprofit for multiple beneficiaries. These can be professionally managed, but can come with fees and rigid rules. Another option you may hear about is an ABLE account, which can be easier to administer and can work well in some cases, but has eligibility limits, contribution caps, and other rules. It's a tool, not a universal replacement. The big takeaway is this: if benefits are part of the picture, you want a structure designed for benefits, not a generic trust, and definitely not an outright inheritance. Now let's switch to the other protective trust theme, spendthrift protection. Because protection isn't always just about government rules. Sometimes it is about protecting our loved ones from themselves or from outside influences. This leads us to the spendthrift protection. We all have people in our lives who are, shall we say, financially creative, or perhaps a bit notoriously bad with money. They might be prone to overspending, or they might work in professions where they face a high risk of being sued. If you leave them money outright, that inheritance could be gone in a matter of months, taken by creditors, or lost in a divorce. A spendthrift trust, or a trust with spendthrift provisions, creates a barrier between the beneficiary and the trust assets. In simple terms, the beneficiary doesn't get to treat the trust like an ATM. A spendthrift clause is a specific rule you write into your trust. It states that the beneficiary cannot sell or give away their interest in the trust, because the beneficiary doesn't own the property. They only own the specific payments the trustee decides to make. The money stays safely out of reach of people who may pressure them. The beneficiary typically only owns what's actually distributed, not the entire trust balance. Why does that matter? Because it can protect the trust from two threats. One, the beneficiary's creditors. In many cases, creditors can't just seize the trust assets before distribution. They may be able to reach money once it's in the beneficiary's hands, but the trust itself is harder to grab. 2. Self-sabotage. If your beneficiary overspends, makes impulsive decisions, struggles with addiction, or just has a history of financial chaos, a trust can slow down access and prevent the inheritance from quickly unraveling. Spendthrift protection also shows up in another scenario: divorce. If assets remain in a properly structured trust, rather than being distributed outright, they may be more protected from a beneficiary's future ex-spouse than a direct inheritance would be. Now, a realism moment. Spendthrift protections are not magic shields against every claim in every situation. Certain types of claims, like child support, may be treated differently under many state laws. So again, this lesson is about the concept and the why, not a promise that any structure is bulletproof. Now let's talk about the most overlooked part of protective trusts: the trustee. If you set up a protective trust, the trustee isn't just pushing paper. They're making real-life judgment calls about someone's needs, dignity, and stability. For special needs planning, The trustee needs to be sensitive, consistent, and careful. The trustee may be coordinating with care providers, family members, and benefit-related considerations. For spendthrift planning, the trustee often needs backbone. They may have to say no, or not yet, or only under these conditions, without turning family gatherings into a war zone. So trustee selection matters more here than almost anywhere else. You may also choose to include incentive provisions, or what some people call values trusts. These are rules that encourage certain behaviors, like finishing a degree or remaining gainfully employed before a distribution could be made. However, we should be careful with these. Your roadmap should be flexible enough to account for the unexpected. For example, if you say a child must graduate college to get their inheritance, what happens if they become disabled and are unable to attend? A good trust allows your trustee the discretion to adapt to those changes. Now let's cover common catastrophic mistakes, because these show up again and again. Mistake number 1, leaving assets outright to someone receiving means-tested benefits. That can trigger benefit disruption and force an unnecessary spend down. Mistake number 2, leaving money to a sibling with the understanding they'll take care of the disabled beneficiary. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it fails because of divorce, creditors, death, resentment, or simple life complexity. It also puts a heavy burden on the sibling. Mistake number 3, choosing a trustee who is either too rigid or too soft. Too rigid and the beneficiary's life becomes miserable. Too soft and the trust turns into a leak. Mistake number 4, using a generic trust without special needs language and assuming it's fine because it's in a trust. For benefits-related planning, details matter. So what's the takeaway? Protective trusts exist because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not hand someone money, but instead build a structure that protects them from consequences they didn't choose, or consequences they can't manage. If you want one small action today, here it is. Pick one beneficiary and ask, is the main risk here creditors, benefits, or behavior? If the answer is benefits, you're likely in special needs territory. If the answer is creditors or behavior, you're likely in spendthrift territory. That single question often clarifies which direction the plan should go.